Ahead on WRAL Triangling 2, we'll tell you about new additions to the Carolina Panthers we're most excited for. Not named Bryce Young. Will also get you ready for this weekend's college baseball super regionals getting underway. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Bergen. Welcome to another edition of WRAL Triangling 2. Luis Fernandez is back. Luis, it's been too many moons since I've seen your face. I hope you had some enjoyable PTO, and we're coming off last night's game 2 of the NBA Finals, and that's where I want to start. Does last night's result, the Heat evening up the series 1-1, does it change your mind at all about how the NBA Finals will go down between the Nuggets and the Heat?
I think it reminds me, Mark, that the Heat are really good and are here for a reason. It's like all postseason, everyone has doubted the Miami Heat and what they can do. Whether it be them just barely making it in through the play-ins, or seeming like it's they're gonna lose to the Celtics or whatever it might be. People have definitely doubted the Heat, and my thought was Nuggets in 5 at the beginning of the series. And when they come out there and Nikola Jokic is as dominant as he is and all of that kind of stuff in the first game, I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, easy. This is going to be fine. I was right. Okay, great. But I think this game 2 was a reminder of what the Heat can do. Teams just get into the fourth quarter against them and just fall apart. They outscored the Nuggets 11 points in the fourth quarter. I think it's like a lot of it is the non-Jimmy Butler related players, right? So Duncan Robinson goes off, scores 10 points in the fourth quarter. That's essentially the difference right there. The entire Heat starters, like Kevin Love getting inserted back into the lineup after not playing for a little bit. He was plus 18. Jimmy Butler plus 3. Bam Adebayo plus 17. Gabe Vincent plus 17. I mean plus 22. It's wild. It's the shift in the players that are not named Jimmy Butler that I think made the biggest difference for the Heat. So I think the Nuggets are still going to win this series, but I think game 2 is a reminder that this is going to be a series.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I had the Nuggets in 6 before the start of the series. I think it will continue to go that way. Thought you hit the nail on the head. Really, the difference for me is the fourth quarter execution, Heat outscoring the Nuggets. And that really was the difference. Now, I wasn't surprised that the Nuggets didn't call a timeout before their final possession. I thought Jamal Murray got a good look before the final buzzer sounded, but I was surprised that the Heat didn't foul on that situation, considering that they were up 3 points as Murray dribbled the ball down the floor.
It's one of those things, like fouling when you're up 3. I think that's just one of those things where each coach is going to react differently in each kind of situation. I'm fine with it. Obviously, the result kind of changes how you do things. I think what it came down to, though, in this game was the Heat taking away Jokic's ability to distribute the ball. He's a triple-double machine. We think of all that. He scored, 41 points in this game. But the big thing for the Nuggets is when he is the main distributor, when he is the guy going out there and he's got 12 assists or something like that. That's when they're at their best. Looking at it here, the Nuggets are 3-7 in the regular season when Jokic had fewer than 6 assists, and he had 4 assists in this one. So that's the main thing. It's that classic with a superstar where you let the superstar go off and you defend everyone else. And that, I think, is especially important when your superstar is as good of a distributor as Jokic is. And the Nuggets, by the way, are also 0-3 in the postseason when Jokic scores 40 or more points. So, this comes down to the players like, the Jamal Murrays of the world, the Aaron Gordons of the world having better games. So that's what's interesting. It's not so much how do you solve the Jokic problem. It's how do you contain Jokic and have him impact the game less, because you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him.
And he makes his teammates better, point blank period. I think Michael Porter Jr. had a bad game in game 2. I'd expect him to redeem himself later on in this series, but it's that Heat zone defense. And we're talking about a zone defense in the NBA. It's a little bit of shape shifting too, because there's times where it's like, oh, this is a 1-3-1 or this is a 3-2, this is a 2-3. I think the main thing is to try to make it difficult for Jokic to get it right at the top of the key. And then they're going to just try to defend him straight up one-on-one and force him to be a scorer. Clearly, he can make you pay if you do that, but the Heat were able to eliminate the other players around Jokic in game 2. And really, the difference for me in this game is, again, I look at the fourth quarter, point blank period, when Duncan Robinson helps lift the Heat. They needed his spark
Yeah.
off the bench. I really thought that was really the key difference in game 2. And then Gabe Vincent as well, 23 points for the Heat as well. It's like, I don't know how they keep doing it, because last series it was NC State's Caleb Martin. He's come back down to earth, now averaging 3 points per game in the finals through the first 2 games. But it's the Heat culture, which I feel like if we took a sample size of 10 people to say, hey, Lewis, what is Heat culture? We get 10 different answers too.
Well, it's Eric Spoelstra. It's what the Heat are as an organization, that tough, gritty type stuff. I mean, Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA. He's so good. And it's Pat Riley doing Pat Riley things. It's that confidence. I look at a couple of other things here, just pointing out. The Heat were so much more efficient in game 2, 38 of 78 from the field. In game 1, they were 39 of 96. They shot the ball 18 less times in this game and scored like 20 some odd more points.
The 3-point shooting was better too, Lewis. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but please continue. I thought the 3-point shooting was huge for Miami.
Absolutely. And Bam Adebayo too. I know, a little bit frustrating watching Bam sometimes. He's very up and down. He had 26 points in game 1, but he shot the ball 25 times. And a lot of those are kind of like in the paint, but they're farther outside the paint, like just inside the elbow. There's kind of like jump shots where you're like, hey, go attack. What are you doing? And that's Jimmy Butler was attacking a lot more in the paint in this game too. Bam had 21 points, 8 of 14 in this one. So the Heat were just more efficient. If they play like this, it's going to be a long series. But I go the way of the Nuggets just because of how good the Nuggets have been. But I mean, the Heat are just one of those teams that if you doubt them, if you sleep on them, they're going to wake you up in the middle of the night and just beat you up. That's who they are.
There is a tangible difference when Bam is on the floor compared to Zeller. I'm not trying to knock Zeller, but I noticed Jokic was targeting and hunting Zeller, and then quickly the Heat are like, we got to put Bam back in the game.
It's not
trying to neutralize Jokic, who's going to do that to a lot of players, regardless of who you match up against. But Bam forcing Jokic to be accountable on the defensive end as well, Lewis. That's something where even if Jokic isn't matched up on him, just the threat of Bam driving to the hoop is something that needs to continue. You've got to force Jokic to play both ends of the floor. Now, let me say this too. One other observation I had, Lewis. I think it's very clear. Jimmy Butler's not 100%. What percentage that is, I don't know, but he's got a bum ankle. I do think he's still able to control the flow of the game somewhat, and he almost serves as the Heat's de facto point guard. But I'm concerned that if he and his scoring ability is limited, and some of that is a credit to Aaron Gordon, his defensive prowess, I don't know if the Heat can steal this series if Jimmy Butler doesn't up his game as we get into game 3, game 4, and so on.
Hey, at least with the finals, there's more time in between games, almost too much time. Don't even get me started on that. The amount of times I was like, oh yeah, game two Saturday. No, it wasn't. But yeah, I mean, if he continues to get healthier and healthier, I think that'll be good. But it all goes back to that efficiency. And if they are efficient in attacking the paint, I think that'll go well for them. And then they just got to prevent Jokic from being able to distribute the way he has been. And you'll take a Jokic, 25, 12 and 12 night over a Jokic, 49 and 6 that night. And anytime. Yeah. If you are the Nuggets, the Heat, yeah, go let Jokic score 40 points and just try and keep his assists down. That's all you want to do.
All right, Lewis, any final thoughts for game 3 on Wednesday night before we keep this rolling here on the pod?
Nah, I'm looking, let the superstars keep being superstars, Jokic and Jimmy Butler going at it. I love this matchup, man. I love this series. These are two guys that, like, I am so happy or one of them is going to walk away with a ring. I'm ecstatic about that. Yeah. So just keep it coming.
All right, we go from the hardwood to the ball diamonds, where, Lewis, I'm going to be honest with you. We could talk till we're blue in the face now that we're into the NCAA tournament. The regionals wrapping up. We got the super regional starting on Friday. Is anyone going to slow down Wake Forest? Because the run differential, like if I wasn't mistaken, it's like, oh, the Demon Deacons scored yet again. Wake Forest has been on a roll heading into this upcoming weekend.
Shout out to Brian Ives over with ESPN for this one. The 48-7 was the run differential in Wake Forest in their 3 games, which is the largest run differential through 3 games for a number 1 seed overall in the current format, which started in 1999. So Wake Forest is looking like they are on an absolute tear. A North Carolina team has not won the College World Series for on the men's side since 1955, I believe. And you know who did it? That was Wake Forest. It was so long ago that Wake Forest was in Wake Forest, not in Winston-Salem. So
I love this.
It's gonna be so interesting to see. Can anyone slow them down? And I mean, I don't think so. I think they're going to get to the College World Series at the very least very easily. You feel a little bad about the rest of the North Carolina teams. So you came in 1/8 of the field in the regionals were North Carolina teams. There were 8 squads in total, and then technically, as of our recording here, on Monday afternoon, that one team could still get in, but Charlotte is out, UNC is out, ECU is out, UNCW is out, NC State is out, Campbell is out, Wake Forest advanced, and then Duke has to beat Coastal Carolina today at 6:00 Monday.
Elimination game tonight, Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a little bit of a rough look. Is good for the North Carolina teams to get there, but a little bit of a rough look to have almost everybody eliminated before we even get to the Super Regionals.
Can't wait to see what happens with the Duke game tonight, Lewis. I've got one bone to pick with UNC, and this was at the start of the ACC tournament, and I wish him a speedy recovery. We were robbed of seeing Vance Honeycutt, who's going to be a top pick in the 2024 MLB draft. A 5-tool prospect, someone who last season as a freshman had a 25-25 season, 25 home runs, 25 stolen bases, which is like an anomaly at the collegiate baseball level. And they're saying lower body injury. Heard further reports it could be a back injury. Hope he gets right, because I wish we could have seen him play. And when I was out at the DBAT for the ACC tournament the other week, Lewis, it was like, oh, I hope we get to see Honeycutt play. And he was on the bench cheering his teammates on. Look, I know he's got a bright future ahead, but man, I just wish we could have seen him play, because he is a terrific talent for the Tar Heels, whose season is now over. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's all ifs and buts. You know what I mean? Like seeing Vance Honeycutt play would have been great. And that would have been a totally different UNC team, especially when you look at what happened with Iowa, and, they struggled essentially to score. Their bats would just go silent for innings at a time. And then in both games, both losses to Iowa that ultimately eliminated them, UNC tries to make a run there very late and just is a run too short. So it would have made a difference, sure. But, that's you play with the team in front of you. That's all you can do. So that's frustrating for UNC for sure. I want to talk about Duke for a second, though, since Duke has like the opportunity to still advance the Super Regional. And, it's so interesting because they end up, doing so well in that opening game, against UNCW, home runs all over the place. They're averaging that I don't know what's going on with that regional in Conway. Like, they're just runs all over the place. Duke is averaging 6.6 runs in the regional. So that's 4 games, I believe, for them now.
Yeah,
it's 3 or 4.
The double elimination always goofs me up, Lewis. I won't lie.
Goofs me up is a good way to put it. I may use a different word if we were not recording for the bosses right now. But and then but so that's great, right? They're scoring all over the place. But Coastal Carolina, they're averaging 11 runs per game. Like, if they're a top national seed, a top 16 seed for a reason. Coastal Carolina is, and they did just win the College World Series a few years back. But if Duke wants to beat Coastal and advance the Super Regionals, they're gonna have to score runs. They're gonna have to put up a lot of runs, which Coastal will allow. So I don't know. I think it's gonna be an exciting baseball game Monday afternoon. And if you're listening to this, or Monday evening, and if you're listening to this post Monday evening, I hope it's good. Tweet at me. Let me know.
I'm going to manifest this now. We'll probably get a pitcher's duel, but I hope Duke Jr., Alex Stone, save one of your home runs for Monday night's game by the time people might be watching this. I'm trying to manifest this here on WRAL Triangle in too, Lewis.
Yeah, I'm going to love when people are watching this on like a Wednesday or a Thursday. And they're like, it was 2-1. Shut up, you idiots. But that's fine. Anything else you want to say about the college baseball stuff, Mark?
No. Just to give people a little bit of a roadmap, after Monday night's game, the super regionals, if you play Friday, Sunday would be the next time you play. And then the Saturday matchups will play Sunday. And then first day of the men's College World Series games would start on June the 16th down in Omaha, Nebraska, Lewis, which is always a great atmosphere. I don't know if you've been before. I've been one time in my life, and it's like you take a raucous college environment, college fans, but then you apply it to baseball. It's almost like something you'd see at like a football tailgate in the enthusiasm, but you apply it to the ball diamond. It's a great atmosphere in Omaha. So we'll see what happens. Again, Monday night, tonight, wrapping up the regionals. We get to the super regionals next weekend, and we go to Omaha for the College World Series. So certainly an exciting time in college baseball as well. Let's get to the final show topic of WRAL Triangle in 2, and that is Carolina Panthers OTAs continue to roll on as we get closer and closer to training camp. So for today's exercise, Lewis, and I'll give you the floor first, the Carolina Panthers' newest addition that you're most excited for, but it has to be a player not named Bryce Young. What say you, Luis Fernandez?
Yeah, it feels like talking about anyone that is a quarterback in these kind of situations is always like it's an easy way out.
Cheating.
Yeah, it's cheating. Yeah. And this is when, we're almost at that point in the summer where we're like, all right, let's find a topic. What can we talk about here at the end? So newest additions that are going to make a big difference. I'm going to go on offense, and I'm going to pick wide receiver DJ Chark. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
So obviously DJ Chark has a lot of potential. He's always been one of these guys. He's a former Pro Bowler. He had that one Pro Bowl year in Jacksonville. He played for a lot of bad teams in Jacksonville. I think that part of the reason why he may not be as consistent as you would like in something like this, but he's signing a 1-year deal, kind of a prove-it deal. He did the same thing with Detroit. And I think the big thing, and he talked a little bit about this to the Panthers on their website. I was reading the article about it. His injury back in 2021, he had an ankle fracture. I think it was 4th game of the season or something like that. It knocked him out for the rest of the year. And he had to get offseason surgery. He had to have surgery, all that stuff, get it taken care of. He goes to the Lions. The way he detailed it in this interview with the Panthers website is he had his body essentially did not react the way doctors expected it to some of the hardware that was used on his ankle during the surgery. So essentially he dealt with a lot of soreness. He dealt with a lot of just aggravation with the Lions on that ankle, especially when he injured it a little bit further during the season. So he went on IR for a little bit of time. So I don't think that DJ Chark, well, I'm hoping at least, that DJ Chark is not going to deal with a lot of injuries this season. Knock on wood on that one. But he had to have another bit of offseason procedure to clean up the ankle a little bit. But he's finally starting to participate in OTAs. He should be ready to go for training camp. He has some familiarity with the system because it's, offensive coordinator coming from the Rams. Jared Goff played for the Rams. Jared Goff was the quarterback over there for the Lions when DJ Chark was there. And so even with that ankle being not 100%, he still had 30 catches, 502 yards, 3 touchdowns. Says 16.7 yards per catch average. If you were to take that and plant it onto the Panthers, the only other receiver with 20 or more catches that had that average was Terrace Marshall Jr. So, I think he's instantly going to be an explosive part of this offense. 4.3, 4.40 when he came out of college. He's got the height to go high point balls, 6'4". I think DJ Chark, he's one of those veterans that you sign on a 1-year deal, and the potential is so tantalizing. And if he can stay healthy, and if that ankle is 100% healed, I think he could be tremendous bang for your buck for the Panthers. That's my guy.
Our listeners and viewers don't know this, Lewis, but Neither you or I are doctors. So breaking news here on WRAL Triangle and 2. In all seriousness, though, when DJ Chark was a Pro Bowler in 2019, do you know who the Jags starting quarterback was going into that season?
Was it Blake Bortles? No, it was
Good
it Gardner
guess.
Minshew?
Wrong again.
Who was it?
Nick Foles. And he
Nick
only played 4
Foles?
games that season. They had signed him to a 4-year deal thinking that he'd be able to get the job done. And clearly that didn't happen, but he was still a Pro Bowler that season. Foles only started 4 games in the 2019 season. I'm blowing your mind a little bit right now.
I think Foles, his career just baffles me. Wait, who started the rest of the season? Who was his quarterback for him?
I'm gonna need listen. We need to get IT on the rest of this. Looking at this right now, we'd have to get research on that.
I think it may be Gardner. I think it may have been Gardner
Minshew. The 2019 season, and the Jags went 6-10 during Chark's Pro Bowl season. But,
hold on. I'm gonna look this up.
But I like it. I thought you might go Adam Thielen, Lewis. In all honesty, I will keep mine on the. Go ahead.
Adam Thielen to me, I think is the ceiling's a little bit lower. I think he could be consistent, but I think the ceiling's a little bit lower.
Sure.
So I was like, let's just go crazy.
We're gonna get research on doing the history of the 2019 Jags. Let me go with my pick really quickly, and we can circle back to DJ Chark. I'm going to keep it on the offensive side of the ball. Miles Sanders is who I'm going to go with because
I thought you might
division. This is a division where I don't think the quarterback play is going to be very great this upcoming season. Look across the division. Derek Carr is the best quarterback in this division on the outset of the 2023 season of any of the quarterbacks that you're going to play this season because Atlanta, okay, Ritter, I guess, Heineke, the backup. And then I've seen footage from the OTAs with the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, Lewis, I'm just going to be polite and say I just don't know what to expect there. So if the quarterback play is not going to be well, establishing the running game is going to be really important. And you bring in Miles Sanders, who's 26 years old, does not have a lot of wear and tear. Is coming off his best season as a professional, and he has experience of playing smash mouth football with a great Eagles offensive line. Bringing that experience over to a young team, I think, is going to be invaluable. At 26 years old, I think he'll start to enter the prime of his career. And I think he's going to be Bryce Young's best friend this upcoming season because when things get tough, even if there's 8 men in the box, he can still hand it to Miles Sanders. And then out of the backfield, swing passes, okay, things don't develop and break down with your passing routes down the field. Check down, let me get it to my running back and get 5-10 yards, what I can. I think Miles Sanders, this edition, him pairing with Chuba Hubbard as well. You get a two-headed monster in the backfield for the Panthers. This is why I picked Miles Sanders. It's the winning culture he brings to Carolina too. I think that's very invaluable.
So I did look it up. Gardner Minshew started 12 games in 2019.
Okay.
So Gardner Minshew, there you go.
Well, it was Foles to start the season.
There you go.
Yes.
So Miles Sanders was, I had 2 options prepared because I didn't know which one you were going to pick. And Miles Sanders was my second. So I respect it. But the main reason why I didn't go Miles Sanders, my first one is running backs in general. Like a lot of times it's plug and play. My only major concern with Miles Sanders is, he was fully healthy, played all 17 regular season games last year. The 2 years before that, he missed 9 games total. So there are some health issues there, but I do think the Panthers are going to approach their running backs a little bit more by committee, just because I think that's the style that they have had success with as of late, excluding Christian McCaffrey, of course. But for me, my main concern with Miles Sanders is, you mentioned the Eagles offensive line. It is that Eagles offensive line. Like how good that Eagles offensive line is. I'm a little bit worried how his play will translate to an offensive line that is not as good. For example, right, you look at some of the advanced stats with running backs last year, he had the most yards before contact. He had 1,200 yards, 1,269 yards running the ground in the regular season, running on the ground of the regular season. about 850 of those, maybe a little bit more, came before contact. So that's my only concern. He still had solid numbers outside of that. He was, I think it was 11th in yards after contact. He was 11th in broken tackles. So he does have that capability. I don't know if it's going to be as good as we saw last year. I think this might be a case of the Panthers buying a little high on Miles Sanders. One thing I would like to see with Miles Sanders is I'd love to see him incorporated more in the passing game. His rookie year, he had 50 catches, and it was great. He hasn't come close to having 50 catches since then. 20, I think, is what he had last year. And when you look at how the Panthers have used running backs in the passing game in the past, and just where the NFL is in general, I think that's, if the offensive line isn't as good as maybe people may want it to be this year, incorporating Miles Sanders as more of a check down type guy for Bryce Young, that to me just makes sense. But I think
he's demonstrated the ability to do it, Lewis. The reason I picked Sanders too, though, is because you're essentially swapping him out with Deontay Foreman, who's now a member of the Chicago Bears. Both Foreman and Hubbard combined for almost 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns after the trade for CMC. So this is where, if your new head coach Frank Reich brings in the offensive prowess that you expect him to as an offensive coach, okay, if the Panthers were able to have success with the running backs that they had last season with an interim but defensive-minded coach in Steve Wilks, you bring in an offensive mind to say, let's figure out creative ways to get him the ball and to make life easy for Bryce Young when he becomes the starting quarterback. So this is where I'm going to rely on, whether it's Frank Reich, whether it's McCown, whether it's some of the offensive minds with the Panthers' new regime. That's where they have to earn their paychecks. And this is why I like this move too, because you still have Hubbard as well in the backfield too. So you get the two-headed monster, keep both guys fresh, feed the hot hand, whoever gets in rhythm. We talk about this with the quarterbacks a lot, but the running game, getting in sync with the running game. And okay, what's a good way to get a young offensive line acclimated? I'm talking Ike Ekwonu up front and company. Let's run the ball and use our body weight, play after play after play after play. And yeah, it's meatball. It's not high-flying fantasy football. But come November, December, and January, Lewis, when you want to be winning games and it's cold, it's wintertime, late in the season, what teams do you think have success? So again, it's a more of an old school approach, but you got to use the personnel that you have.
Fair. And Thomas Brown, the Panthers offensive coordinator, like I said, he came from LA with the Rams. So if you want to kind of figure out how a running game, what the running game would look like, I think you can look at what they've done in the past as an example there. And two, one of the things you got to remember, Miles Sanders, right? Jalen Hurts was their best goal line carrier all of last season. The amount of touchdowns that Jalen Hurts essentially vultured from Miles Sanders, and Sanders still finished with 11 rushing touchdowns last year. So I'm curious to see how it all works out. It's just the Panthers offense in general. You look at the pieces and you can talk yourself into the offense taking a step. You really can. But the question is, it's going to be one of those things where do the things translate from paper to the field? And if you have a couple of things go in the right bounce, if the offensive line improves, if Bryce Young transitions very easily, if DJ Chark stays healthy, if Hayden Hurst stays healthy, you have some very interesting pieces.
I think week one, first few weeks of the season might be slow, but this is where you got to rely on your defense. But come week 17, week 18, I expect there to be improvement on the back half of the season. I don't expect to be lighting up the scoreboard week one of the season. If anything you want to plug in terms of WRAL sports coverage, our listeners and viewers need to know about?
Well, I was just going to say College Football Hall of Fame ballot came out just a little bit ago. And there weren't a whole lot of North Carolina representatives as a whole, but you did have 2 UNC players on that list as possible entries into the College Football Hall of Fame. Ken Huff, guard for Carolina, and then Julius Peppers. So, shout out to them. And thanks everyone for watching. And, let's keep it going.
For Luis Fernandez, I'm Mark Bergen. Thanks for taking the time to listen and watch WRAL Triangle and 2. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care. So long, everybody.